What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another 86 review, and today we will be taking a look at the new MEDICOM toy Mafex Batman Begins Batman. Okay, so first let's take a look at the package. Mafex gives us a big window showing everything inside. We get the accessories on the top left corner there. We get the extra head, the unmasked head, and the extra chest piece that comes with this set. You can see there is some artwork of Batman there on the top right. We get a cool shot here of Batman all posed up on the bottom left. The sides, the top, the bottom, and the back, and some shots of Batman in various poses and displaying the optional parts it comes with. And here he is out of the package, and yeah, it's okay. And not to sound like a negative Nancy right off the bat, but I do have to be honest with you, and yeah, this figure for me personally is just okay. And it's not to say that this is a bad figure. It definitely isn't a bad figure, but it definitely isn't a great figure either. This is the third release from Mafex of a Nolan Trilogy Batman, I believe. The first two being a Dark Knight suit, version 1 and version 2, with version 3, wow, coming out early next year. So I kind of feel that Mafex have had their stab at Nolan Batman, and by now should have gotten it down pat, but it still does fall a little short, and I think a lot of that stems from the head sculpt and how accurate it is to the actual movie, to Christian Bale. Yes, Batman does wear a mask to hide his identity, but you can always tell who it is underneath the mask. Christian Bale just has a really distinct look to him, and unfortunately this figure doesn't really capture that essence, doesn't really capture Christian Bale's look, in my honest opinion. Which is a shame, because the initial promotional shots did show a lot of promise, and that particular head sculpt, which is different to this final production head sculpt, did look a lot more like Christian Bale. And while I can't exactly pinpoint what is off about the head sculpt, when you have it side by side next to the SH Figure Arts Dark Knight Batman, which I think nailed the head sculpt, you can kind of see subtle differences. So I watched a little featurette, a little documentary on the evolution of the Nolan Batman suit. And whilst the design for Batman Begins and the Dark Knight suits are significantly different, the cowl actually does remain the same. The only difference being that the cowl on the Batman Begins suit, the cowl starts from the neck and it's actually one piece, whilst the Dark Knight cowl is a separate piece from the neck. He does that because so he can actually move his head without turning his whole body. The cowl essentially is the same, but when you look at both of the head sculpts on both of these figures, you can see there are differences in the nose. The nose does seem a little bit shorter on the Mafex, a little bit wider, and the opening where you see the mouth, to me personally, on the Mafex, it just looks like a more generic face sculpt, like it can be just some random guy underneath a Batman mask, whilst the figure arts, for me anyway, it actually does look like Christian Bale is underneath that cowl. So I think the body sculpt is where the figure really shines. All the details are molded, sculpted really nicely. You can see it's really clean, really sharp. And it carries over to the back here. Just lift up the cape to show you guys. And I'm really digging this particular design. It's probably one of my favorite bat suits. If you've seen Batman Begins, and I think everybody has seen Batman Begins, the suit is actually based off a prototype military suit, and Bruce just kind of added the bat motifs, sprayed it black, and kind of made it his own. But it's a simple design, but it's practical, and it just looks really, really slick, really stealthy, in my opinion. And I think that's what Nolan was going for, that they wanted to make it realistic, not just make it look cool. One thing I have to mention is that the belt is a separate piece from the actual suit. I don't know why they made it a separate piece, because it would have worked just as well if they stuck it to the crotch, like most of the other 6-inch Batman figures that we've gotten in the past. It is a softer plastic, and it is molded in a really bright gold. I wish they would have made it a more muted gold. It does have some silver highlights and some black paint here on his transceiver. I don't know really what that is, but there is some black details there on the front as well. And you can actually push the belt down so it sits tightly on the crotch, but when you pose it, it does tend to pop off, so that can be something that is a little bit annoying. But if you do want to stick it down with some glue, you can definitely do that. But I think they may have made it separate because you can have a pre-Batman look. You can actually take off the chest and it doesn't have the Batman symbol on it. It's just a blank chest. So maybe, you know, you can take off the belt and have a pure black prototype suit look going on there. The cape is actually, ooh, there we go. Sorry, the cape is actually quite long compared to the SH Figure Arts Dark Knight Batman. I don't mind it so much. I think Batman's supposed to have a really long, nice, flowing, draping cape. The cape does have wires on both the right and the left side, so you can actually, you know, manipulate it to get some poses, just like the Batman vs Superman Batman. So that is a nice feature. The wires are a little thin and it does feel a little bit cheap. It just doesn't have that quality feel like the SH Figure Arts cape does. But you can manipulate it a lot easier than the Figure Arts cape. The shape is in that traditional Batman shape. The actual cape material is a little bit thin, but it's not bad. It doesn't have the thickness of the Figure Arts cape, but again, it is a lot better, a lot nicer to actually, you know, get into poses. So articulation is actually pretty good besides the head, which hardly moves at all. You do get slight swivel, but that's pretty much it. And that's forgiven since that's how it was like in the movie. You know, one of the reasons for changing the suit in The Dark Knight was because Bruce Wayne wanted to move his head without having to shift his whole body. Still, like I mentioned, you do get some side-to-side motion, but up and down is pretty much non-existent. Shoulders are on a ball joint and it is connected to a cup, so you do get a little bit of in and outward movement. The shoulders do get a full 360 and they do get 90, well, a little less than 90 degrees going up. You do get a bicep swivel, which is nice. Double jointed elbows. And wrists have swivels and hinges as well. You get a upper torso joint, which has a great range of motion. So you can get some ab crunch, and you get a lower torso joint, which gives you side-to-side swivel. And again, like I said, the belt is separate, and it does tend to kind of shift up when you do pose it. The crotch itself is actually made from a slightly softer plastic, like the Mafex Homecoming Spider-Man. The hips, you do have a drop down, and Batman can do the splits this much. He can kick forward and back this much. He does have a upper thigh swivel, double jointed knees, a swivel there at the ankle, down and up, some toe articulation, and he does have a pretty good ankle pivot. And the good thing is that they actually hide the ball hinge joint there pretty well, so you can't actually see the joints. It's not too noticeable, which is nice. Okay, so for accessories, Batman does come with 2 fisted hands, comes with 2 open palm hands, 2 grappling gun holding hands with trigger fingers, 2 batarang holding hands with 1 hand holding a batarang already, and it fits in there quite nicely. It's a little bit loose, but when you shake it, it doesn't come out, so it's not too bad. And he actually does come with 2, and he actually does come with 3 gold batarangs as well. They're actually quite small, smaller than the SH Figure Arts batarangs. He comes with a grappling gun, which is painted in a gold, silver, kind of a dark silver color. And you also get a unmasked Bruce Wayne Christian Bale head. And for the most part, I think it doesn't look too much like Christian Bale. I mean, if you do have it on angle, maybe like that or like that, there is some resemblance to Christian Bale. But no, I think, you know, Mafex is working on it, and I'm sure they will improve with future releases. But you know, I am glad. I do appreciate that they do include extra face sculpts, which is nice. It does give you some options. So yeah, keep it up. I'm sure we will get, you know, Mafex will get better at their digital face sculpting in the future. So the main gimmick of this figure is the ability to change out the chest plate to give Batman his pre-Batman prototype look. And what you have to do is you take off the head, take off the Batman chest plate, which is connected to the cape, and that's connected with magnets, as you can see here. You grab the blank chest plate and it just fits on there like that. You don't have to use too much force because they are connected with magnets, and it does sit there pretty nicely. You grab the Christian Bale head, and for my Christian Bale head, the actual socket is actually really tight, and I can't get it to sit all the way down without using a lot of force, but you get the idea. This is his pre-Batman prototype look. And it's a pretty cool feature. It reminds me of those 90s animated Batman toys that I used to have. I don't remember which one it was, but it was a civilian Batman, and you could actually put on his chest armor, his cowl, and his cape. And this kind of reminds me of that particular toy, which I loved. And it's definitely a nice throwback to those 90s toys. Whilst the blank chest plate does fit on nicely, as you can see here, the actual Batman chest plate doesn't fit as flush. You gotta actually push it in all the way. You can see here on the left side it sits quite nicely without any gaps, but on the right side there is a gap there near the shoulders, and I guess that can't be helped because the cape does kind of get in the way, and when you have the actual head on, I'm just going to put the head on to show you guys, the chest plate doesn't come off at all, so you're not going to get any issues with that, but it doesn't sit flush, and it is something worth mentioning. But overall, it is a pretty nice feature, quite a nice gimmick. I don't know if I'll be switching out the chest plate too often, but it is definitely a cool little feature. Okay, so some size comparisons with a couple of other Batman figures. We have the SH Figure Arts Dark Knight Batman on the right, and the more recent Justice League Batman there on the left. He's a good height, tall as he should be, and I don't have the Figure Arts Joker or the older Mafex Joker with me, but I think the Figure Arts might be a little bit too short to scale with this particular Batman. Alright guys, so is the figure worth picking up? Well, I think it depends on how big of a Nolan Trilogy Batman fan you are, or a Movieverse Batman fan. If you collect Batmen, if you're one of those collectors who needs every single Iron Man suit in their collection, yeah, then by all means, it's a solid figure. It's the only Batman Begins 6-inch figure that we have out at the moment, as far as I know. But if you're just a casual collector and you're kind of, tossing up between Mafex or Figure Arts, which, Nolan Batman to pick up, then I would definitely go for the Figure Arts Dark Knight Batman. That being said, it still is a really solid figure with some nice articulation, a really good body sculpt. I really like the proportions, and a pretty cool gimmick overall. I think some things to consider. I wouldn't say it's a definite buy, but definitely worth taking a look at if you are interested in the Batman Begins suit. Alright guys, I think I have a couple more reviews coming up before the end of the year. Figure Arts Tien and Figure Arts Homemade Suit Homecoming Spider-Man. It'll depend on, when they come in, but I should have those reviews out before the holidays. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, thank you so much for watching. You guys are awesome. If you're new to the channel, thanks for dropping by. And yeah, please feel free to subscribe and hit that bell button for more. Anyway guys, take it easy. Have a fantastic week, and I will see you for the next one.